You're watching Global Exchange Hub on Afrovibes TV. I'm Barbara Sam. We connect the world through conversations, community, and collective voices. Through conversations on business, politics, and so much more. Joining us today, we have a special guest. He is a community activist, a community advocate, an educator, and also the son of late former heavyweight champion George Foreman IV. He's also a candidate for District 18 Congressional District here in Houston, Texas. Help me welcome to the show, George Foreman IV. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I feel like you said everything about me already. Vote for me.
But there's so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
You have a very high pedigree, a very strong pedigree. And you decided to take your own career path in education and community advocacy. So talk to us about that.
Well, I'm born and raised actually in the 18th Congressional District, region of the district called Humboldt, north of the district. I was born there. And my dad had a church and a nonprofit, the George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
Yeah.
And that's what he raised us in. We were first and foremost PKs, preacher kids, but also activists.
Yeah.
We were in the community picking up trash, hosting community boxing matches. Even my first job was as a teacher, teaching children to box, USA Boxing. So I've worked with our Olympic committee in the past through sports and recreation, really giving kids an alternative to the streets using sports and fitness to make them fall in love with self-development and self-love. So that's been my origin. From there, I got 2 degrees from Texas Southern University right here in Houston, one in journalism and the other, or I could have done anything. I could have gotten my MBA to work on business. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, but I chose to get my degree, my advanced studies in public policy. Yeah. I wanted to understand how government works, how they spend the money, and why our government makes the decisions that they make that impact the people. Then once I got my formal education, of course, I'm a student most of my life. I'm a teacher.
We all are student of life. We're
students.
Always learning and discovering something new.
I'm literally an educator, so I teach students. So it's important to me that I don't just learn the knowledge, but I actually do the work to try to improve my community, making the differences. I worked in the policy space with Texas Public Policy Foundation in Austin, Texas, trying to write the best bills to put on our lawmakers' desks. And very often, partisan politics would make them rip that beautiful concept in half and run with the half that they liked. And that bothered me. And when Sylvester Turner died, I got angry because I saw, first off, he was a leader and a mentor in our community, and I wish we had done more together. I thought I'd have more time, and that really broke my heart. But beyond that, I want to be the solution I want to see in the world, because I recognize if I don't do it, no one will. Yeah. And the same people will continue to pay the price by coming in last when they should be coming in first, because they have the best representation. That's what America's about.
Where's all of this passion stemming from, George?
Well, you got to remember, I'm the son of heavyweight champion George Foreman. But bigger than that, George Foreman was an Olympic gold medalist. He came from absolute poverty. And through the Job Corps, America wrapped their flag around him and gave him the opportunity to be more than just a kid from Fifth Ward. Yeah. The United States government said, you know what? You're an American. You believe in yourself. We believe in you. So we'll get you, we'll put up the money to put you in the Job Corps, give you a trade skill. Yeah. And that trade skill, boxing is also a trade skill, made him a revolutionary. When everyone else wanted to raise their fists in objection of the country, he waved the flag because he loved his country and the opportunity that America gave to him, the land of opportunity. Yeah. That's who raised me. I held the hands of Muhammad Ali. Does that make sense? I felt the lifeblood of those who fought and gave their life to make America better in the 60s. They poured into me.
He was definitely a freedom fighter.
Even Al Green during the COVID shutdown, I stood alongside Al Green, one passing out supplies to families, but also COVID testing the families who couldn't afford to go and get their tests to go back to work or go back to school. These are the people who poured into me. Sheila Jackson, I watched her and my dad rescue children from Haiti because no one else would. So these individuals poured into me and made me the activist and the human rights activist, the person I am today. So I am a direct descendant of the great legacy of the leaders of the 60s and 70s who wanted a greater America. And I see what we have now and our need to do something bigger and better. And that's all what I'm all about.
You talk so passionately about just the work that you're doing, even from a young age. Talk about some of those initiatives that you have going on in the community right now.
Well, I'm a history teacher. That's what I love. I love history. During the COVID shutdown, I thought about it. I was like, if I could do anything every day, what would it be? That would be studying and teaching history. That's what I would do. So I became a history teacher. And in that process, I fell in love with the truth and reality that comes to the world when we tell stories. And during a time where you really see our administration, our leadership redefining and redistricting our reality, it's very important that we storytell. So I'm working with the Gregory Library. We're doing an initiative, a storytellers initiative, to bring some of those great stories from the 60s and 70s to the forefront, to let people know what it was like when freedom fighters really had to get out there and get it done.
For our viewers that's not familiar with the Gregory Library, can you kind of just tell us or where it's located, what
So
neighborhood?
right here in Houston, our historic Fourth Ward,
Okay.
there is an African American library, one of very few, I think the only one in the state.
Okay.
And it's actually in a historic land that was built by freedmen. They call it Freedmen's Town.
Okay.
And they built this library and they're devoted to telling the stories of those who may have been lost in history. And that's who I chose to partner with in my storytelling initiative. I'm also a teacher, so I'm literally doing the work on the ground to get the kids who got behind on credits, got even some of the young ladies, 13, 14-year-old moms
Yeah.
who are just trying to get their life back together. That's who I'm mentoring and working with every day. That's the future of our district. And sometimes I have to say, hey, you're going to have to put the vape smoke down and focus on class. That's my speech for the day. Sometimes I'm saying, hey, you need to focus on you're 19, you need to get a trade skill. You need to get down the welding shop and change the trajectory of your life. This is what I'm doing every day in my district. And I have been doing this for years. And that's my lifeblood of who I am. And I'm an entrepreneur. I built companies. I have a company. I'm not plugging it, but it's just the truth. But Foreman and Associates Insurance Services, because I wanted to educate people about their wealth solutions and their healthcare solutions so they make the right decisions for their long-term care.
Financial literacy is something that's really big and a lot of people don't have access to.
Absolutely.
So I think it's okay to kind of mention it because of the work that you're doing, the resources, and just the information that you're providing to people.
That's it. And, even, little things like Medicare, we talk about it, we think about it, but understanding the real elements of it and how it affects those who are disabled or those who are 65 and older, really understanding that dynamic, not just getting on TV and saying, they're cutting our Medicare. It's like, no, the system is inefficient and it needs real changes. That's my priority.
When we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into your campaign for the Congressional District 18. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm having a conversation with George Foreman IV. We were just diving into his work in the community and also to why he's running for the Congressional District 18. So you have done a lot of work in the community at a young age, advocacy, different initiatives, different community programs. Why not just run for a seat in city council or for local politics? Why Congress?
I heard a conversation. It was a quote on NPR. I used to always hear by JFK. He said, "Ask not what your country can do for you,
But what you can do
what
for your
you
country."
can do for your country." And that always inspired me that there was a concept of a great America. I'm a belief in American exceptionalism, not just the United States of America, but the Caribbean, South America, Central America. The mindset of freedom and liberty and the fight for that, that's where I come from. Those are the individuals who poured into me and used prize fighting as a chance to escape poverty.
Okay.
This makes sense? Business-minded people. So this has been a big motivator for me to not just represent the 18th district in the House, but to represent America to the world. I think it's about time we had somebody from the district who was willing to wave the flag before they were ready to throw stones at fellow Americans. That's been a cause of great distrust and hate in our country, stone throwing instead of problem solving. So, like I said, America wrapped their flag in my father. They wrapped their flag around my mother and made her an American citizen as an immigrant. These are things that are important to me. I'm also a preacher. So being nonpartisan and independent is important when you're preaching the gospel truth to the people. And I have to bring that everywhere I go. So these are issues that just make me, I want to do the most for the most people. City council is great, but what if we could get the funding to support city council initiatives from our federal government? In Texas, we're very much, we hold our right to be independent. What is it? Other Texas ways. As goes Texas, so goes America and the world. We say these things amongst ourselves. Texas forever. We have this Texas mindset. But Texas is Texas because America stepped up and supported us in our revolution. And we said, okay, we'll become Americans.
You mentioned independence. Why did you decide to run as a political independent party or candidate?
Yeah. Well, I have 9 siblings, just 10 of us. And I want to make sure that I represent all 10. And that's just in my household, or I have a congregation. And when I'm preaching the truth to free people from the burdens of their soul, I just tell the best truth as most accurate to liberate the most people from their own demons, right? That's where I come from. That's my identity. So if I'm problem solving for my district, there is no partisan way to make sure the children know how to read. There is no partisan way to make sure that the homeless have a pathway to self-sustainability. There's no partisan way to make sure that, people in prison have civil rights just because they're in jail. There's no partisan way to make sure that America has the best domestic workforce to build the future that we want. These are just universal. They must be done. And that's what I'm focused on. What are the issues that affect the most people?
You mentioned education. You mentioned jobs.
Yeah.
You also mentioned Medicaid, Medicare.
Yeah.
So what type of initiatives, programs that you're going to bring to Congress based on the work that you're currently doing in the community in District 18?
Well, because of my background, it's my focus in how the laws are written to make sure that they help the most people. That's my priority. I'm focused on the policy, not just the sound bites that generate revenue and clicks, but how is this written to make sure that it supports the most people? That's my priority. That's my mission. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a policy researcher. And I can like to look over and say, you know what does the business, the nonprofit, the research world, what do they say that we need to be doing to make sure that we help the most people and to let that lead?
What's your take on the policy about immigration, especially in Texas? As you can see throughout the country, there has been so much with ICE detaining people, taking children from their homes, rounding people up, bringing in the National Guard to support ICE efforts. What's your policy and stance on that?
This is why I love Texas, because Texas is Texas. And if the federal government wants to do anything in Texas, we stop them for a second, we assess what they're trying to do, and we make sure they do it the Texas way. And as I look at these different states and how ICE is carrying out, how they're being received to the people, one, I know that we need national law enforcement to respect rule of law. I know that, but I also believe in civil rights and human rights above all else, human decency above all else. So when you have American citizens accidentally getting arrested in the fray, that's disgusting to me. And that shows a lack of competence. But I think that doesn't mean that people in government shouldn't be doing everything they can to protect the integrity of the American citizen. That should be done no matter what. There is no country that can exist without respect for rule of law. And if people are disrespecting our rule of law in the country, there should be a system to correct them and force them to do right. There's one for me. If I drive too fast, I know to look and make sure who's not around. And I think everyone should have that same rule and respect of law. Now, I'm a child of an immigrant. My mother came to this country for opportunity. She had a conversation with her grandmother. I don't know if I want to leave. She's from St. Lucia, a small, beautiful island in the West Indies. I recommend you go. All my St. Lucians out there, we got one. I'm doing this for us. But more than anything, I want the world to know that America is the land of opportunity. No matter where you're from, you come here, you get your opportunity so you can help the most people wherever you're from, the American way.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal, background about your mother's, experience and journey to the US. You said a lot about immigration. Let's just kind of recap some of the policies and some of the initiatives that you support. Immigration.
I am pro-immigration. We should have the best immigration in the world. The best and the brightest all over the world should want to come to America in order to bring their ideas to life. I believe that.
Before we continue, the border, Texas, you're Texan, you're a native Houstonian. We're in Texas right now. This border crisis that's been going on for many years.
Yeah.
In Congress, winning this congressional seat.
Yeah.
What is your plan of action, or what are some of the ideas that you could share with us?
Well, it's important that we frame our border correctly and we don't let radicals on one side or another frame the argument. One, human decency should be the number one priority. If you see someone in need, your first gut should go to helping that person, whether it's a migrant or a citizen. So if you're going anywhere else and I'm talking about like children, migrant children, or people fleeing domestic or national crisis, like these are people in need. And how you address them really reflects your character. I don't believe that there are many races, and there's one race, the human race.
The human race.
But there are multiple types of people, decent and indecent, first and foremost. I'm a decent person. I believe in treating people decently. And I don't believe in sacrificing integrity or sacrificing decency in order to be efficient. That doesn't make sense to me. That's how you end up with holocausts. Because, you're trying to be efficient and you end up sacrificing human rights. To me, there's never an option. You always are decent and you also always respect human rights. So framing that argument, looking at our border crisis, I think we let indecency lead for too long. And now that pendulum is swung the other way. So now this new administration is trying to be efficient at the sake of human decency. And I don't think that should be the case. I think human decency should be a priority, number one, and then rule of law should always follow.
This congressional seat is a special election. You mentioned the late Congressman Sylvester Turner.
Yeah.
He had a very big legacy here in Houston as a former mayor as well. This special election is it's happening November 4th. So make sure you vote.
Please go vote.
But there may be a possibility for re-election. That means you may have to run again for the same position. But this time there's redistricting. They're drawing the lines. Growing up in Houston, you live in District 18, you're from District 18. So what is your take on redistricting and what those new maps look like? And what does that mean for the community and for those constituents in that area?
And the beautiful story about America is that it's always changing. Our districts have been different, will be different, were different, are going to be different in the future.
But usually that happens during a certain period during the census. So this is kind of maybe in the middle of that.
It's strange, but more than anything, our justices, our justice system has ruled that our districts were unconstitutional. And our leadership used that case to change the lines. I don't work for our government. What information they had when, what should have been done when. I'm not here to criticize who didn't do what. I just know that the future of our district and the shape of it is going to be different. And as a candidate, I am the best candidate for all people. I don't care if you have a business in this district, if you have a child in this district, or if you're born and raised in this district. You need a candidate that puts your needs, the needs of your business, and the needs of your children first, before partisan politics. That's why you have to vote for me. I'm a problem solver. I'm an educator. I'm a human rights activist, first and foremost. I believe in the rights of human beings, no matter what their color, no matter what nation they were born in. Your needs are my priority. That's why I'm the best candidate. Simple as that. I got to witness the great Muhammad Ali and his advocacy for the human right and human decency. I got to witness George Foreman and his advocacy for America and American decency, American exceptionalism. These are the people who raised me. So I am the best candidate to advocate for what America should be for you. That's me.
With so much passion that's poured out, we're definitely going to keep an eye on you, George Foreman IV. And we're also going to keep our eye on this congressional race to see what happens in the polls on November 4th. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Barbara Sam with Global Exchange Hub on Afrovibes TV. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, in the studio is George Foreman IV. He is an educator, community advocate, and a candidate for the Congressional District 18 for Texas. Just to continue the conversation, you mentioned your background in education, working in community at a small age, at a young age, and the continued work that you're doing. What do you think the view of Houston and the congressional district outside of Texas, seeing that there was redistricting for the map, and that is on a national level, national attention to where there was a lot happening in Austin. There's a lot that's centered around this one district. So what do you think people's view is?
Having worked, I'll start with from a Texas standpoint. I've worked in our state's capital. And I've talked to lawmakers about what the agenda of moving Texas forward. How do you make Texas number one in education? How do you make Texas number one in business? How do you make Texas number one in entrepreneurship? These are strategies that intellectuals are figuring out every day. We study Thomas Sowell, Richard Johnston. I could go on and on. We study the experts to see what the best policy should be. Well, in that, I often see the 18th Congressional District standing in the way of progress. Legitimately, me out campaigning to my local leaders in my district about education reform, and then they go on TV and say that the policies that I'm pushing are racist. How can this be?
So when you say that District 18 is standing in the way for progress in Texas,
Yeah.
Are these the political leaders in the seat, or is this the community? Because Texas 18 is a very diverse community. You have African Americans, Latinos, whites, you have other ethnicities, because Houston is such a melting pot of cultures. So when you say people are standing in the way, can you be more specific about that?
Absolutely. So the people of the 18th Congressional District are the most diverse, the greatest potential. They're young, our schools are full, the potential is there. But the leaders in place that determine the policies that impact the people are often misguided and on the wrong side of history. That's what I've seen from our local leadership. And because I've been on the policy side pushing for it, I'm ready for different people to read these policies, make the edits necessary, and apply them to serve the most people. That's what I need. And that's what I'm focused on. So whether it's public schools being, I think, the best public schools in the district that produce the best workforce should be the 18th Congressional District. It should be, but it's not yet. And that's a problem for me.
Seeing that in this position in Congress, you have such a short time, what are the most impactful initiatives that you're ready to just hit the ground running to do?
Well, number one for me, what financial support can America provide to Houston, the 18th Congressional District, to build the infrastructure to protect the people from storms? What we just saw in Central Texas is very common in the 18th Congressional District.
Yeah.
Floods coming through and washing grandmas off the street. We know this comes.
Brownies.
This is unacceptable. This is the energy capital of the world. We should be on the forefront of just energy resilience and weather resilience. So that's number one. And I think I could do that in my first year. Really making sure that Texas has the funds to be on, the 18th District in Houston has the funds to be on the forefront of the infrastructure innovation that creates opportunity and sustains healthy communities. That's police, that's education, that's freeways, trains, tunnels, bridges, all these things are infrastructure. And that's what keeps a business flowing. That's number one. Now, from there, then we can start to be specific. How do you fund education for the future? These are simple solutions. Matters of, hey, make sure the funds go these places. Make sure it's worded this way. So, mid-skill labor, trade skills, apprenticeships get the funding they need to build our future workforce. Kids need to be knowing that they're getting the skills to pay the bills, and they need to know that as soon as possible. We shouldn't have 16-year-olds falling asleep in class and we undiagnosed illiterate. That doesn't make any sense. These are our future engineers. These are our future roof builders, pipe fitters, lawyers, doctors. We need to be engaging them and putting them to work as soon as possible with meaningful bill-paying jobs.
In recent headlines, we've seen so many reports about job layoffs, about loss of job, and even across industry. So what implementation plans or strategies do you have to combat this?
Well, I'm a lover of free market capitalism. That's the American dream. You come to America, whether you're born or migrated, you can do whatever you want. As long as you're the best, you can charge whatever you want and make a living on it. That's free market capitalism. Be the best. And the government should not be picking the winners and losers. The people should do that. So if we let the best products, services, and solutions come to the forefront, then we have the best employers at the forefront. The 18th Congressional District is the most underserved, underinsured. We're highly undereducated.
Why is that?
I'd like to figure that out. And I think that if I could get to the seat and look at the data and reach over and across the aisles to get the support from state and local leadership as well, I think we could solve that. For whatever reason, there's been, I'll use an analogy, like the movie Lion King, when you see the sun shining on one side and the dark other side, that's driving down Highway 59 and trying to figure out which side is the 18th Congressional District. You can see where the opportunity flows when you're looking at downtown and you're looking at Fifth Ward or Edo compared to central downtown. There's a beautification initiative.
There's a lot of development within those neighborhoods recently. There's a lot of new housing opportunities. There's a lot of new small businesses. So a lot of development have, come into those specific neighborhoods that you just mentioned.
Thank God for the people to make sure that development is real. I have been in the nonprofits who have had to fundraise to solve the problems that our government will not. It's been the nonprofits that have done it. It's been the teachers, the principals, the people doing overtime and after hours, even people inheriting and selling their land. Gentrification creates opportunity because you can sell an asset. That's what causes change. The people do. And if you give the people all the freedom and resources that they need to thrive, instead of making government the picker of winners and losers, then opportunity comes to the forefront. People came to America to be free. That's why we came here, for freedom.
Why does a neighborhood have to change or, and as people say, get better when gentrification happens? Why can't those resources be allocated to support that community without this change?
Yeah. I mean, you can't control human migration. I mean, if you try to predict what humans are going to do, you'll be wrong most of the time. So I'm not trying to impede or get in the way of human migration, but if you have an asset that you inherited from your family and you choose to sell that asset, that is your right and privilege as a free market capitalist. Now, if somebody wants to come in and say, oh, that's gentrification, you shouldn't have done that, we shouldn't do that. No, well, we should be proactive in building our communities, of course. And if you have wealth, you need to learn how to keep that wealth in your family. That's a financial education skill. So a lot of the gentrification conversation is really about the changing of communities without the replacement of those communities, because we're managing our wealth properly and building on, if I inherit a house that my dad got for $20,000 in 1971, and I can sell that house for $200,000, that's a wealth of an opportunity. But what I do with that money, that's education. And that's what we need to focus on.
This is such a interesting perspective because you don't represent the Democratic Party.
No.
You don't represent the Republican Party. You're independent candidate.
Independent.
So I think some of the things that you've mentioned, as far as your stance, your take, what your ideology is, how your perspective and how your experience, your background has all shaped your views.
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways that you have instilled in yourself from your family?
Legacy to me means everything, and not just being who you are, but being you are your ancestors. They are alive in you. And I would live and feel that every day. Even my nickname, I'm George Foreman IV, but my nickname is Big Wheel. I got that nickname from my great grandfather. So sometimes I'm standing in church and I'm storytelling, and I can feel how Big Wheel would have said what I am saying to his children. I can feel it in me. Like, man, Big Wheel was probably had to crack down. He had 8 daughters.
Oh, wow.
2 died, and 1 son. The son got in trouble and skipped town first chance he could. So Big Wheel had to raise his daughters to carry on legacy. And that's what I'm a product of. Me and my cousins, we're standing on the shoulders of the giants who came before us. And that is what the 18th Congressional District is to me. Mickey Leland died too soon. He was a revolutionary. He knew how to bring health programs from the federal level. That's why I want to bring education programs from a federal level to solve the problems. Like, if Texas isn't doing it, America's got your back. And that's why I want to be in Congress. And this is not political to me. This is problem solving to me. And it's obvious to me that if people need food, if people are starving, you find food solutions. If people are unemployed, you find education and employment solutions. If people are economically disadvantaged, you find economic opportunity solutions. That is indiscriminate of who's in the White House. That is indiscriminate of who's the biggest donor of this year's party event and what they want to push. No, this is about problem solving, and that's what I'm all about. I'm a business owner. I'm a businessman, and I want to do the most that I can do to help the most people. And that's a conversation about efficiency and human decency.
Working directly with the community, what is the feedback and response that you've received from them in regards to what their needs are?
Man, the people are scared of the next flood. The people are afraid of what's going to happen when the next hurricane hits. The people are afraid of what's going to happen when the next crime wave hits. I even heard somebody talking about the murders on the bayou, all the murders on Houston's bayou. This leaves people afraid, scared to run in the parks. So most importantly, there's a commerce conversation here. People are spending their tax dollars and they're keeping our system, our city, our government, our society afloat through the purchase of goods and the exchange of wealth. We have to protect them, and we have to make sure that they feel safe everywhere they go. Now, if the federal government wants to send in troops, well, we have a great local National Guard that we could support, people who are living in and amongst us. But we have a great, I work really closely with Harris County and our precincts to make sure that we're problem solvers in times of crisis. I grew up doing this. So this is a priority to me, and I've already been doing it. So I'd love to add some of the resources to the relationships I've already built to try to make America and Texas as amazing for all people as possible.
You mentioned law enforcement and supporting them. Are you in support of having National Guard here in Texas?
Well, first off, we have a National Guard here in Texas that already exists. Now, what I believe you're referring to,
working with ICE, working with local law enforcement.
These programs should all be working efficiently in every city. They should be. Now, there's definitely a federal overreach conversation that I think we should be careful of. We fought a Revolutionary War to keep troops from overstepping into our freedom as Americans. So I think that's always a conversation to be had. But if crime is overtaking our society, what do you want our leaders to do to get us safe? That's the question. What's the limit? How far is too far when it comes to police overreach? And we talk about that all the time. So again, human decency, human decency, human decency. You cannot sacrifice human decency and the rights of man in order to be efficient. So if you want to reduce crime, you don't just bring in more cops. You bring in the programs and the educational programs to make sure you're not creating criminals because they're undiagnosed dyslexic and they don't want to be in school anymore. So what's the point of sending in 2,000 troops, 2,500 troops, 25,000 troops, if they're still just going to be the same kids going fed into this prison system through a school to prison pipeline? It doesn't make sense.
Before we go, we have to wrap up, but I want to know, how can law enforcement support more of the mental health crisis, mental illness that we see in news reports in the public?
That's a resource conversation. I think about the police athletic leagues of old, and police whether off the job or during community time, making time to engage with the children and community. So that way those children knew, one, to respect authority, but two, it made relationships at all levels of community. You don't just see police as law enforcement, you see them as criminal justice and community activists. So I think if we can bridge that gap and make sure that as a society, we don't just treat police as criminal response, but as community builders, that means resources. That means police got to have the resources in their office to not just be showing up with boots and dogs. They got to show up with care, research, cameras, plenty of cameras, so that way everyone is held accountable.
Yeah.
These are resource conversations. And I think if we can bring the conversation back to what can we do to make our programs efficient and decent, not just you're wrong or I'm wrong. You know, I watched George Floyd's murder on my phone just like
The
everybody
world
else.
did.
We all watch that.
The
So
world
we
did.
know what overreach is. When you see it, you don't have to wonder if it's too far. We can taste it and see it, but we also know what human decency is. And we got to see a lot of that after the fact.
Thank you so much. It's great to have a conversation to understand as a political candidate for Congressional District 18, what your stance is, what your policies, and some of the initiatives that you want to bring right to Congress.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching us. Thank you so much for tuning in to Global Exchange Hub right here on Afrovibes TV. I'm Barbara Sam. And a special thank you to our guest again, George Foreman IV.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.